Hello and welcome. It is 11 o'clock. It's the 20th day of February 2021. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM, and it's time for some DM tips. And this week we're going to discuss the fine art of stealing from other games and from other products. And more specifically, the fine art of mashing up or taking ideas from one thing to enhance something else. And to use an example of the fine art of mashing up or taking one idea from something and add it to something else, we're going to use one of my favorites, Storm King's Thunder, and how I have repeatedly run Storm King's Thunder and the various adventures it is a homage to, because Storm King's Thunder is an homage to, of course, the great G1, G2, G3 series from the old days of Dungeons and Dragons, Standing of the Hill Giant Chief, Frost Giant Jarl, and the Sultan of the Fire Giants, which of course introduced us to those naughty, sexy, original Drow. So this is a perfect example of an adventure that can be used as a springboard for the fine art of theft / mashing up, taking ideas from other product to add to this, because there have been several variations of this adventure, both official, semi-official, and homages too. Of course, Storm King's Thunder is a homage to Against the Giants. Against the Giants has been remade by TSR and then later Wizards of the Coast like 2 or 3 different times, and each version was slightly different. We also have the Giant Slayer adventure path from Paizo, which is, I think, a 6-8 part adventure path, which again pretty much tells the story of Against the Giants, but from Paizo's point of view, and changes things up, adds a few different things, makes it a little more interesting, gets a little bit more to the stories. My favorite part being the Shakespearean Frost Giants that were in that one. At least that's how I ran them. Maybe I misinterpreted them wrong, but I ran the Frost Giants as sort of a Shakespearean tragedy. Then we have Hal from the North, which was another adventure that was done, I think, for 2nd edition, maybe 3rd edition, which was also sort of an homage to Against the Giants, even though instead of giants, it was different monsters. But again, it was sort of an homage. And then there's a lot of other unofficial homages to Against the Giants. A lot of different companies have done giant-themed adventures or taken the idea of Against the Giants and sort of redone it. Necromancer Games did one. I'm sure there's other companies that have done it. There's lots of, if you just look D&D / Giants, you will see a lot of adventures that were inspired by the classic Against the Giants. And then, of course, Storm King's Thunder, which rates in probably the top 5 of official Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons adventures, is a homage to Against the Giants, and that's why this is perfect for how to steal, because you can run Storm King's Thunder, but you can also steal from the other products. Like when I run it, I usually mash together Storm King's Thunder with the Giant Slayer adventure path and 1 or 2 other giant related products from different companies. So even though somebody at my table might have gone through this, run it, played it, they're still hit with that, hey, everything you encounter might not be what you thought it was, because I'm stealing from 2 to 4 other adventures. And I might throw another module in here that sort of follows the same theme, but has nothing to do with this, just to change things up. Like, I use as the starting point for when I run my giant-themed campaign, the starting adventure from Giant Slayer, which is a murder mystery / town invasion story. And then I sort of mash it together with this and some other stuff, but then I also add some extra stuff too from a different module about a group of goblins invading a city and how goblins might go about actually evading a city if they were going to. And using things like gang warfare and, filling pots with rabid rats and throwing the pots into the center of town so the rabid rats will spread around. And the other ways that giants and goblins might actually attack a town. And I add that in with the starting adventure from Giant Slayer, and then I also mix that with the very starting adventure from this. So even if somebody's been through it, they're like, wait, what is this party, and why do we have these daggers, and who's this guy, and why are we now investigating a murder, and what does this have to do with giants? Oh, that's what it has to do with giants. Oh. So mashups, the fine art of stealing, taking things from one product and mashing it together with another product to help empathize the scene. This one's perfect. Another one's perfect is just if you want to run an Egyptian-themed adventure for your D&D game or fantasy game or anything, there's 100,000 Egyptian-themed adventures that you could mash together to create a Egyptian-themed adventure path where people are just like, what is this Black Pyramid? Who's this guy standing in the middle of the road? Why is this Sphinx librarian here? I don't understand any of this. And you're like, well, I'm running 5 different modules that all have the same theme. I've just mashed them together. The fine art of stealing, a DM's greatest tool, along with random tables. I cannot say enough about random tables. Random tables are your second greatest tool if you're a DM. The first greatest tool is, of course, being able to blatantly steal from a bunch of different adventures and mash them together to create brand new product. I mean, it's going to take you about as much time to read those adventures and mash them together to create a new adventure as it would just to read through this on its own and run it as is. So why not? You add a little excitement, you mess with your players' minds, and maybe there's something in that other adventure that you like better than this. I mean, the end boss at the end of Giant Slayer is way cool. I mean, the end boss in this is pretty cool, but the end boss at Giant Slayer, who this is also just sort of an homage to, being that it's a storm giant at the end. It's a storm giant at the end, and he's got a bunch of artifacts, and there's a whole bunch of other shit going on, and that's just makes that guy way cooler than this guy. So yes, the fine art of stealing. There we go. Thank you very much. I hope you appreciate this little kernel of DM advice. If you do, support me. Give a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And until then, have a great day. Tell me how you would mash up some of your favorite adventures to create a new adventure. And I will talk to you later. I'm tired. Get off my lawn.